Welcome. This is Glen Mayo with Independently Speaking. We're joined today by Alec Kinski of the Circuit, the Circuit Tour season ticket. Alec, you can take a minute and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Glenn. I own and manage a property called the Circuit, and it's pretty much a direct crossover in the space you're in, and a lot of synergies. So I'm excited to talk, and yeah, we cover high level grassroots basketball. So I feel like we're pretty unique in the space, and excited to be here.
Absolutely, no doubt. We appreciate you joining us. Much respect, for what you guys have been able to do over the years. In the realm of grassroots sports in general. Just kind of jumping right into it, you're a co-founder, if I'm not mistaken, of the Circuit, the season ticket. I think you guys started about 10 years ago, right? Kind of talk to us. I know you mentioned you guys are in grassroots sports and stuff. Kind of, talk to us about, what your mission's been over the last, 10 years and kind of exactly how you guys, go about helping people and go about doing what you do.
Yeah, so for about the past 10 years, me personally, I've been in grassroots basketball. I had a coverage site while I was at Sports Engine, which I spent basically all of my time post-college from up until starting the Circuit and kind of rebranding what we built at Sports Engine. So we had a property called D1 Circuit for almost 8 years, covered the Nike EYBL 17U circuit at a pretty high level. Really proud of that coverage, what we did, and really wanted to had the itch to transform that kind of the coverage to all the circuits and all the independents, and saw that there was kind of a bigger net that we could be casting. So left in late 2019. Yeah, so for 2.5, 3 years, we've rebranded under the property, the season ticket. We have full plans to do kind of what we did in basketball and other sports from that moniker. So each of those sports coverage will have a different name. Our basketball coverage is the Circuit. So while I was at Sports Engine, we also launched Prep Circuit, and that was high school coverage. So we've kind of merged both of those into one under the Circuit. We have year-round coverage of the best prep and club basketball players and programs in the country.
Absolutely. Okay. So I think now you guys, like you said, have your own circuit and stuff now, but you said it originally started out as, just media coverage.
We're media coverage. Yeah. So interviews, scores, stats, standings, schedules, news. We tried to approach it from more or less an ESPN approach, and we feel like there's room to do that for the rest of the landscape in grassroots basketball now.
Absolutely. No, okay. That's good stuff. And especially in that sector, the grassroots side there, you guys are the ESPN, like you said, of grassroots. So no, that's really cool. And you guys have got to see a lot of great players over the years, I'm sure. Can you kind of, talk about, some of the past players that, you got to see maybe their stories start to get written, and you played a small part or a big part, and what they've become today?
Yeah, I mean, being pretty hands-on with the coverage of the EYBL and having to feel like we have to be on the pulse with the teams and whatnot. At the events, you get to know the players pretty well. Breaking it down, I'd say the player I remember, I guess, most fondly, my interactions with and wanting to root for him afterwards would probably be Darren Fox. He was just a great kid, kind of ahead of his years. Being able to kind of converse with adults and whatnot, but he stuck out on the court. Obviously, he was great too. Played 3 years, but on the court, awesome to see Trae Young and what he did with Michael Porter. I feel like they have a very strong case for best grassroots team ever. At least in modern day. I know there's a ton. I get a lot of flack for that comment. There's a ton of good programs in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that would be difficult to compete with in modern day grassroots now with how spread out the talent is.
Right.
But that team in particular was something else. I mean, their fourth man is the leading scorer and potential player of the year candidate at Kansas right now. So it's like,
right.
It's there's levels to it, and that was impressive to watch. They put up the most impressive peach jam I've ever seen. Yeah, those would probably be the two I'd point to.
Okay, yeah, nice.
There's a couple that I saw live that I was like, well, that kid's gonna make it. Why is his recruitment not higher? David Roddy's one of them right now.
Okay.
He's at Colorado State. He's been great. He's an NBA prospect now, and played for Howard Pulliam. I was like, why aren't more programs recruiting David Roddy? He also played football. He was kind of undersized, but yeah, I mean, as the game changes, I feel like the way you recruit players and how they fit into systems have to change, and he's kind of just one of the ones that slid underneath the radar.
Right. No, okay. That's a good name. So you mentioned it briefly, but kind of talk to us about how things have changed, from year one to year now, as far as, as a company, your overall goal and mission. I know you mentioned you want to maybe get into some other avenues, outside of basketball. So
yeah,
tell us some about that.
Yeah, that might not happen for a little bit. We're really have a heavy focus on basketball and be able to really infiltrate the youth market and be able to provide some media in the youth landscape, and then also we have a pretty lofty goals in the girls space as well, as we ramp up kind of what we're doing as a company. That's a pretty big focus of ours. But from the boys side of things, it was just all the information's out there. We just want to put it in one spot. So by putting it in one spot, it's going to allow me to tell you that team final was 35-3 this past summer, not just their EYBL record. And quite honestly, I feel like the biggest, I feel a little foolish because I would hardly take into account how a team would do outside of the circuit when I would write like previews and whatnot in years past, just because I was ignorant to the fact how much that matters. But almost 50% of your schedule sometimes can be outside of the shoe circuit. So, you talk year one to year two, year three, I feel like we've had the opportunity to ramp up what we want our coverage to be. We're excited to execute it this year. I honestly consider this year one of our coverage because now the shoe circuits are back. Last years they haven't been there since we started. So, it kind of were last year with it, but not, in full. So, we're excited for a year to cover it like that.
So you guys, like you said, will be hosting your own events as well, and then covering, all of the shoe circuits.
Yeah, we don't run live period events. We want to let the independent guys do their things, we cover the shoe circuits the best we can, and some of the independent guys run some outstanding tournaments that I wish you could be in two places at once, quite honestly, because there's some really good basketball being played. So. We want to be the non-live period shoe circuit, right? And get all those teams to kind of play and coaches to be able to see them against some different competition and, not everyone they're used to seeing. So,
right.
We're excited about that model. And, it's an inclusive model. We're covering all the other tournaments and basically saying, if you play in these events, we're going to count it against your record. All the data's out there.
No, that's good. I think, just like you said, man, there's a lot of really good talent on the shoe circuit, but there's also a lot of really good talent outside the shoe circuit and the independent teams. And
there's a ton. We'll have a number next week, or actually this upcoming weekend for the All-Star game. Current list of all the NBA rosters and where they play their grassroots ball. So nice. Nike's number one, I believe. Independent and Adidas are neck and neck for number two. Under Armour has a bunch as well. I mean, those three combined, it's more than 75% of the league as far as alumni. So yeah, it's if you go play in one of those shoe circuits, it's a good chance. And then if you throw in all the elite independents that they're coming from, and they're recognizable names, right? It's not just independent programs like, oh, well, they've been doing it for a while. It makes sense. They have a couple pros. So we're excited to produce that list and put an objective narrative out there like, look, here's the numbers, and there's plenty of guys that play pre-circuit, right? That's before 2010. So there's plenty of guys that fall in that category. There's also plenty of foreign players that don't have the chance to play grassroots. So we factor out all those numbers and give you some, hey, the American born NBA under 28, right? Here's how many played in the shoe circuit, and it's a large number. So
right, yeah, they definitely, made their mark on the grassroots scene over the years. So leading into some of your events, man, let's talk about your circuit series. I mean, I know you mentioned this outside of the live event dates. We're actually partnered with you on one, but kind of, talk to us about the model, like you said, overall in general of your circuit series and kind of what the goal is behind it.
Yeah, so like I said, we cover all these events, right? Well, we take it upon ourselves to kind of put those events in quadrants, right? Shoe circuit events, top quadrant. Our events also at the top quadrant. There's also events called circuit certified events that are in the top quadrant that we basically said, yeah, this event's awesome, right? It should be treated as such. We have a middle line, and those are more, really established showcases, really good events. You earn, we have a circuit score. So you earn points by winning at those quadrants. So we do our best to kind of put certain tournaments in certain value points, and depending on the teams they have there and how difficult how many teams are from out of state, and we put a variety of factors kind of across the board as far as how we evaluate an event. But a lot of these guys are running awesome events that we don't want to touch. We just want to cover them. So we put those in our system, and we track all the final scores, and we do that for our events too. So our events are, like I said, it allows the independents to kind of earn the maximum amount of points in the circuit score because it counts the same amount as the shoe circuit. So who you play matters, right? There's multipliers by if you beat a shoe circuit team, how much you beat them by. It's essentially a BCS RPI model where it's an algorithm we plug it into, and we basically say, here's what we're running it in high school right now. Montrose number 1, Sunrise number 2. It projects pretty well once you get enough data. So we're excited to run it once the grassroots season starts, because a lot of these teams flock to the same events.
Right.
And, we're trying to being, like I said, inclusive and partner with certain events. We have a number of partnership events this year, and we have the Final Four event, which we're super excited about. We have a bunch of talent there, and we can't be everywhere, so right. It's a perfect, like, hey, you guys got the spot. Let's try to get more teams there and try to make it into an event that for across the board, from the youth to the older grassroots side, it really makes an impact. And yeah, I'm excited for that one, obviously, because it's at the Final Four. So right.
I was about to say that Final Four event. Damian Key with Lineage of Champions, the owner of Independent Hoops and this podcast, Independently Speaking, who, has done a phenomenal job over the last 20 plus years in the independent sector, like you mentioned, and a good number of those, former, professional, or those, NBA players right now that were part of the independent circuit, have played in a lot of his events.
He was one of the first guys I ever met in grassroots. And then I was at Sports Engine, so I helped build his website for the NYBL. So I've remained friendly with Damian over the years. And that's, one of the reasons I'm excited to run this too, because I know it's going to be a well-run event and have some really, really good teams there. So
absolutely. So the Final Four event, like you said, is taking place, this year, April 1st through the 3rd, and during the college basketball Final Four in New Orleans. And to kind of talk to us about some of the top teams that obviously you guys have partnered with us on that event as part of your circuit series. Talk to us about some of the top teams, top players that for sure are going to be there, and
Yeah, we have verbal confirmations from Houston Hoops. They got Jalen Lowe. They have Malik Presley. They have Wesley Yates. They have a number of Keanu Dawes. I'm sure I'm missing a couple. That are they're one of the top teams in the country. I'm excited to see how they perform. I think that'll be their first weekend in action. Team Thad will be down. They always put together one of the best rosters in the country, and they usually clean up in these type of tournaments. So I'm excited to see how they perform. Got a couple really high-level independents coming down. I'm going to see if I can pull up my list. There we go. There's a good chance Team United makes their way down there. We're really excited about their 16s. Southern Kings are going to be really good. From Georgia, pulling a lot of talent from Augusta. Showtime Elite went 27 and something last year. They had a really, really strong season from Louisiana. They'll kind of defend home turf. Obviously, Live On, Florida Leafs. Probably should have mentioned them first. They'll be defending home turf from the EYBL standpoint. They have a loaded roster. I'm really excited to see how they perform in the EYBL as well. Team USC Premier, Team Unleashed Premier, same team from South Carolina. They have one of a really, really good independent roster. The Pluto Prospects, for my money, probably the top 3 independent team in the country from Colorado. A lot of local teams. Team Trez, Montrezl Harrell's team from North Carolina. They play just like he plays. I'm excited to see them. OSIC Elite, Team AJ Boye, Team Wall, Judah Nation. There's a bunch of. It'll be a really high level event at the 17U level. And I don't even think we have enough time to get to the younger age groups where those are kind of handpicked, which we're excited to see, that competition that early in the year. I think it's an important event right before the live period where it's a warm-up event where it matters, right? Those events matter before that. I think all events matter, but those ones matter because you want to see how the teams are doing before they go to their respective circuits.
Right. No, absolutely. Now you hit on a couple of them too. That obviously you've got a fair share of EYBL teams and stuff, but when you mentioned, like you said, the Southern Kings out of Georgia, it's got 6'9" kid, Luke Wilson, and some really good guards, and then ICANN All Stars from California. The other side of the other side of the country, and Rock Johnson does a really good job with them, and Kentucky Hoop Dreams, who has had some affiliations here and there, but Mike Scott does a really, really good job with them, and for guys like Eli Wright in the past, SEC players come from that type of program, and now for Juice All Stars, from North Carolina that has had several kids.
It'll be there, yeah, they're good. And that's another, we have a list. We're going to share this soon too of every sponsored team from a current or former pro. So obviously sponsored by Lance Stevenson. That's a pro sponsor. Live on Florida. Randy Livingston. That's one. Team Thad Young. That's one. So it's exciting to get some of those teams. Team Wall, John Wall's team to be there. Team Trez. It's exciting to get all those teams kind of competing against one another. So grassroots basketball is what it is. So we're waiting on official commitments from some pretty major programs that we're excited to announce, but it's gonna all come together in the next month and a half and get a really good field there at a bunch of age levels.
And that event right there, they're only taking so many teams per age group, right? And obviously it's at the Final Four, so it's been we're basically trying to figure out right now, and anyone who's run an event is probably feeling how the heat I'm feeling right now, trying to figure out. We have the game slots, right? Trying to figure out how big we want to make each age level. We have a lot more interest at 17U than we thought we would. That's what we ultimately want to push as much as we can. 16s, 15s, keep that equal. And we want to go 14s, 13s, 12s, 11s. And those should be 16 teams per pool. Nice.
So, those will be handpicked. And I trust the guys at the NYBL and you guys to scout that talent. And obviously the shoe brand teams at those levels are obviously that's translatable, right? They're still pretty successful at the youth level, but finding those other youth teams, I think is important. Max Levels Elite has a really good, I believe, 6th grade team. They'll bring their older team as well. It's Tyrese Maxey's team. Young Pro from Arkansas. They pull a lot of kids from around the country. They're really, really, really good. There's good younger teams, and I'm sure we could have a whole another episode talking about the whole junior side of things. But you mentioned a couple of them. Southern Kings with Luke, he's great. They're a type of team that will thrive in this type of environment where they can potentially play some other really high level teams from across the country and see how that talent translates. Right. I think that's the most. Like in where I sit in grassroots basketball, that's like the most, from a scouting standpoint, the most satisfying thing is when you can get matchups that let's see how like the top kid from Colorado does against the top kid from New Mexico. Like, are they on the same playing field? And we'll be able to answer some of those questions this year. So, yeah.
And then, also touched on that. Another reason, I think this circuit and then this event especially is very beneficial is because, like you said, not only just state to state, but you can get, an independent team like Southern Kings or Juice All Star, the shoe circuit team, and see kind of where they rack up and
That
so.
happened last year. I mean, at our events, we had Team Arsenal come in. They beat Mocan. I believe beat Night Ride. I mean, there's a bunch of upsets that you give them the opportunity to play it. There's some really good talent there, and Team Arsenal had 3 high major players on the roster. So,
right, absolutely. Well, last thing before we get you out of here is, looking forward to this season. Obviously that Final Four event, but also, just your circuit in general. Is there any, players that stand out that, you're curious to see how their development went from last year to this year, or, you feel, could really break out this year?
Yeah, I always like to see how the teams do, like the 16s champions do and 17s. And right now that's going to have a strong indication, or that's going to have a strong impact on how we rank the teams, right? So Team Why Not won 16s last year. Indiana Elite, I know, was really good at 16s. Team Curry went undefeated at 16s for team, for in Under Armour. So, I mean, we weigh that against where new talent, I guess, goes. So if you're asking me what I guess I'm most excited about, I like to see how those teams convert to 17U.
Right.
So like Team Why Not, I think they'll be really, really, really good. I think they'll add a couple of pieces. They won Peace Jam. Drive Nation will be right behind them. They got Ron Holland, KJ Lewis, RJ Jones. I mean, they're loaded kind of to the brim. And there's a lot of teams I think that'll have, look at the NJ Scholars. They just added a kid named David Tubeck to, Mark Mackenzie and Baco, DJ Wagner, Chion Medley, Aaron Bradshaw. That team's loaded. I think it's coming back to some of these teams are going to be really, really, really stacked, and they're going to need to be in order to really compete at a high level. The Florida Rebels are going to be really good. They got Sean Stewart going to Duke, Jizzle James blowing up in Orlando right now. Really good point guard. They got a number of pieces that athletic pieces. They got a number of big men that are going to I feel like increase their recruitment at a pretty high level. Team CP3 will be fun. It'll be fun to see who they keep from their roster from 16s. They had a really good 16s. The Skill Factory coming to a couple of our events. They were really, really good at 16s. I got Isaiah Collier and Cannon Carlisle. I'm excited to see how they do. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of storylines. We have a magazine. This will be a just a blatant push of content for me here, but we have a magazine that we launched in March that will it's called Welcome to the Circuit. It'll be a preview of the entire circuit, so you'll be able to learn about rosters and teams and where each team is going to be and the top events across the country and which events that we're going to ultimately score in our system. So yeah, it's almost that time. It's coming up. So yeah, you're asking the right questions. I got to figure that out myself. Hey, who are the best teams we got to cover? Who are the best players? And yeah, I think there's a true battle for number one at 2023. I think there is a 2024 as well, because I almost disagree with everyone across the board. Sometimes I disagree with our own rankings, right? We have a committee that helps us do ours. So
right.
I agree with everything. Some things I look at, I'm like, yeah, I think we're well off on that. But as a collective unit, I think we did a good job. It's really hard to rank these guys. I don't judge other ranking services. It's just some things you disagree with and some things other people see when other people don't see. It'll be interesting to see how that talent finally, plays out in a true circuit environment, which we should get this spring and summer.
Absolutely. We're all hoping that, this COVID situation stays the way it is. It seems like we're kind of progressing a little bit, slowly but surely.
Trending up, knock on wood, which I'll do. And I think as long as there's not another strain, which I think it's good that it's kind of coming out of winter, not to be a scientist, but I'm crossing my fingers. We have our end of the season event. As long as that's not impacted, we just closed the Mirage, which I'm sure by when you publish this that'll be announced. because it's going to be announced shortly. We'll be inside their grand ballroom for our championship in August. So we're excited for that. So I think you guys are at the TARC for the juniors.
We are
kind of parlay that event as well, and we're excited about that. So should be some good things coming.
Absolutely. Well, we definitely appreciate you taking the time to get on. There's a great deal of respect for, not only you, but, the companies you've worked with along the way and obviously started from the ground up. So, much applause to you and the impact that you've had over on, grassroots basketball throughout the years. And, we definitely look forward to, staying in contact, building the network. If, any teams that are watching it, if there's, still room to get in or anything, what teams need to do to kind of, get into the circuit series, get into the Final Four run in New Orleans? What can they do?
Go to the circuit on Twitter. So Twitter /the circuit, and our pin tweet has all of our dates. And then you can apply there to play. We, basically do an audit of a program when they apply, figure out which events they'd be good for, let you tell us which events you want to come to. So we have a process in place. Follow that. It's also on the seasonticket.com. If you go there, it's right on it's the first thing you see on the homepage. So can't miss it. Should be 12 events with a, the culminating Vegas event, like I said. So if you want to play in Final Four, any of those events, we're in a number of different locations this year where we're, hoping to have some pretty cool events. And if you're interested, definitely follow that process.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us, man. And we look forward to seeing you soon. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it, Glenn.
Take care. Guys, that's all for our first episode of Independently Speaking. I'm Glen Mayo, your host for this. Independent Hoops is a nationally recognized scouting service. We cover, we are the brand agent and cover the NYBL, National Youth Basketball League, as well as Lineage of Champions, LOCI Hoop Circuit. So you can find all of that information on any social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just look for us, National Youth Basketball League or Lineage of Champions. All right. Thanks. Have a great day.